I'm presenting this entire concept as unfinished thoughts on a beautiful new approach to Adam and Hava, Adam and Eve in Gan Eden. For me, the Father and Son are a one-unit extension. The Son is an extension of the Father. As Adam brought death into the world, so does Cain. These two are a unit, very much so, like the two lukos, the two stones that make up the 10 Commandments, 5 and 5. The second commandments, the second 5 commandments are an extension of the first 5. I feel that Hava, Eve, was the first sota. We know this because the snake, who was the person who committed this intercourse with Hava, different from her husband Adam, had to go on his belly. Now the belly is the big deal with the sota, because when she drinks the water with the name in it, with the name of Hashem in it, if she's guilty, her belly swells. Now, I have an original thought here, because I think that the belly swells like a pregnancy. You see? The belly swells like a pregnancy. And this pregnancy had Cain. So the snake, who has to go on his belly, and Hava, who gets a pregnancy, and every woman gets a pregnancy. So in a certain sense, every woman is a sota, because the intercourse itself comes from the original intercourse. There's also thoughts here that it takes 2 bias to create the first child. So there may have been 2 intercourses here. One intercourse from the snake, the first bia from the snake, and the second bia from Adam. Well, we'll see. Again, these are original thoughts of mine. The idea of Cain, being the extension of Adam, and the rectification in a certain sense, not a rectification, but the big Cain is a Nazir. Cain is the first Nazir. Because, quite frankly, the sin of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was eating grapes. This is also the reason why Adam only lived to 930 years of life, and not 1,000, because he lost 70 years. That 70 has to do with yayin, with wine, yud nun, which is made from grapes. So the sin is eating the grapes, and that brought death into the world. Adam brings death into the world, and so does Cain. The killing of Hevel is the bringing of death into the world. In a certain sense, Hevel and Cain may be twins. It's even brought down as that. It's not an original thought of mine. And in killing Cain, in Cain killing Hevel, it's almost a rectification for the sota. And a necessary act. So how is Cain, he's the first Nazir, and wait till you hear this. I've discovered that in his name. Cain is spelt Kuf Yud Nun. Now the Kuf is spelt Resh Zion. That's how you make a Kuf, esoterically, or even writtenly. A Resh on top with a Zion that comes down. That's 207. Resh is 200, Zion is 7. That's 207. 207 is by itself Ein Sof, but it's Ein Sof. 207 is Ein Sof. So in the first letter, which is the most important letter of someone, is the letter is the Ein Sof. It's the Kuf. I have much to say about the Kuf because the Kuf is from me from the back of the head. And it's the head with the spine coming down. And mine opened the other day because I associate this with Das and the neck and the head going back, tilting back a little bit, not down, but back a little bit. Head up, head up. And when that does, it frees the neck. Most people in this society, keeping themselves protected. If you don't keep yourself protected, head up. See? When you walk down the street, look as if you're seeing on the second floor, not the ground. So this kuf of Cain is Ein Sof itself, just in that. Resh Zion. Then, if you add the Yud, that's how did I do this? Just Resh Zion. Then Yud is 10, so that's 217. It's 207 plus 17. And 50 for the Nun. So I'm spelling out the letters kind of in this. Resh Zion, Yud, and Nun. Right? So just the forms of the letters. Resh Zion is 207, Yud is 10, and Nun is 50. So that's 10 and 50 at 60 with 207, that's 267, and that's the gematria of Nazir. Nazir is 267. So Cain was the first Nazir. And he's also separated from the community. After his killing of Hevel, he's sent to the land of Nod, separated from the community. And he's given an oath. And what's his oath? Tefillin, or whatever. He's given an oath, given a mark on the head, a letter. supposed to be separated from death, separated from its brother. No wine, no grapes from the tree of life. And secret of not cutting his hair, because the hair is energy. So Cain was the Nazir. Now, he's the extension of Adam. And I have other things here that if you just take the regular Cain, that's 160, Kuf 100, Yud 10, Nun 50, that's 160, and add Adam to it, which is 45, you get 205. Plus 2, one for each word, that's 207. There's Ein Sof right there again. So in the way I spell with the Kuf and the original Cain is 207. Here we are with Adam and Cain as 207. It's Ein Sof. And they come from Ein Sof. And that's how they progenerate the race here. Another way I like to do it is I put these two words together without a final letter in the mem. I call them Adam Cain. I write these two words together. I've done this before with the word Gan Eden. I put the two words together so there's only one final letter, and with that, I count the final letter as a 700 here with Cain. I get 855 plus 6 letters, that's 861. That's Ein Sof, Aleph, Samek, quotation mark, final pay. Those are the letters, by the way, of Fs rearranged. But Ein Sof can be spelt as 861, and that's another way that we get Adam. So we know there's Ein Sof, and it's a split. And in this split of Ein Sof, because Adam in itself, to me, you see, we go into the regular letters now. Adam is with the final mem is 605, and if you add 1, that's 606, and that's Atzmutz. Atzmutz. So in a certain sense, if you use he's the Atzmutz of the Ein Sof. Another way I like to look at it is Cain is 160. And that's a Zelem. 160 is Zelem. So we have in these names Zelem, we have the Atzmutz of Ein Sof. I'm looking at some of these things here, because you know the relationship between Cain and Hevel, and because Cain is 37, that's Yehida, and then Zelem is Cain is 160. And for me, I've always told you, I've said this before, the Zelem is higher than the Yehida. The Zelem is the 6th level. See, where Atzmutz is, by the way. What they call Atzmutz in the regular 5 levels of the soul, the 6th level is the Atzmutz, that's Adam. But for me, that Adam and the Zelem, the Atzmutz and the Zelem are parallel. And which they are, because as I said, the Son is the extension of the Father. And that they were both, their father was the original being involved in the Sota. And just like in the Nazir section of the Torah, where the sota, the Nazir follows the sota part in the Torah portion. And the Nazir he sees the sota and then becomes a Nazir. And that's the rectification and the continuation. And what every person is supposed to be. Man and woman. And any woman with a baby, with a pregnancy, is by definition here a sota. So there's a level of celibacy, which is also expressed by Shimshon. Deep. I'm just looking at my notes because I have some other things about the idea of a Merkaba, a chariot. You know, my brother, who was in this case Hevel, had a dream a couple days before he died about a chariot, about Audi, that was named after my mother, Elaine. And the Merkava, this is, by the way, it's brought down, it's the letter Shin. Shin for Shimon, by the way. The letter Shin itself is this car, the Merkava. When you see the chariots, when you go out in the street, you wonder if you're in Gan Eden. The entire world's a chariot. So I only see cars. I walk in the street, all I see is cars. And bicycles now. These are the chariots. These are the Merkava. And the beautiful thing about a Merkava is that the gematria is 267, which is the same as Nazir. And the Merkava, the Nazir, is a Merkava. And so in a certain sense, he represents the letter Shin. The letter Shin are the three patriarchs. So the letter, it's made like a letter Shin of Hesed, Gevurah, and Teferet. It's made like a Shin. These are three lines brought down to a singular point. This threeness is the chariot. This threeness is found on the mezuzah. You see a shin on the outside. The whole idea of the mezuzah, by the way, a Shaddai, is not much different than Cain either, as a chariot. Because if you do the gematria of Cain, you get Kuf, 100, Yud, 10, that's 110, and a final Nun, the 700, that's 810, plus 3 letters, that's 813, plus 1 for all is 800 is 814, which is, by the way, Shaddai fully spelt out. So the name of the real Shin there is Shaddai, and that fully spelt out is 814, and that's Cain, and that's the Merkava, it's the chariot. So the rectification of Gan Eden is done by every act of Cain. Every act of Cain is a rectification of Gan Eden, including the killing of Hevel. Because in a certain sense, Hevel is the child of even though it's the second child, weird here. It's the child, one of these children had to go. So if it wasn't Cain, it's Hevel. It's the child of this illicit union of the Nahash and Hava. And belly for the snake, and a belly of pregnancy for Hava, and a banishment for Adam, taking of grapes, and a minus 70 years total eventually in his life for the wine, and Cain as a rectification and as a continuation, and Cain as the Nazir. And that's how we go on from there. So these are just a few thoughts. I have others. It's, as we say, getting late. The Resh itself, if spelled out, I have a way to make that into 586. It's a Resh is 510 in this sense. Zion 67, it's 577. 6 letters, 2 words, 1 for all, it's 586. And 586 is the propitious number of Yesod fully spelt out. Yerushalayim in itself, Shofar, all 586. And so this is again from that letter Kuf, the most important letter of the word Cain, and a representative of Ein Sof, and a representative of the back of the head where the dalet is of the tefillin, and a very propitious time to talk about this right after the exodus from Mitzrayim, which are the narrows in the neck. And so there's a lot of new material here. And just to wrap it up, the idea of the Father and Son being one unit of expression, as the Son as a continuation of the Father's initial acts. And as Adam brought death into the world, so did Cain.